In the previous videos, I talked about the misconception around Scrum Masters and diminishing them to Ticket Masters. I sort of tried to clear that up, that confusion or misconception. And today's video is mostly dedicated to those who are considering hiring a Scrum Masters in the context of a software development project, or making decisions in regards to how they want to deliver software projects or programs in their organization. And what is the role of a Scrum Master in that context? So to achieve that, we need to look at the environment, the agile environment that is set up. And in most cases, it's more important to think about that environment and sort of visualize what sort of environmental factors we're putting in place, what sort of structure we're introducing, and then also think about the role of the Scrum Master in that context. You may know that some organizations go with the term Agile Delivery Manager as opposed to Scrum Master, while the responsibilities are quite similar. There are also lots of variations in the market: Agile Project Managers, Agile Project Manager / Scrum Master, Agile Business Analyst / Scrum Master, etc. So irrespective of what those terms are, I want to talk about the role of the Scrum Master and the environmental factors that can greatly contribute to Scrum Masters thriving and really contributing value to the project, and also the kind of environment where every other team member, not just the Scrum Master, every other team member has room to grow and sort of thrive in that sort of environment. All right, so to achieve this, we need to have a think about our mindset. And I want to look at it, and when I say mindset, I'm not talking about an individual's mindset. Obviously, the mindset of individual managers in the organization is super important. But in this context, what I mean by mindset is what is the mindset of the organization as a whole, like how do we see our organization? So if you are a manager, a director, CEO, CIO, and you're trying to decide, or even a program manager or a director, right? It has various levels. If you want to decide like what roles you need, how you want to go about delivering software programs, how do you do that? What are some of the important factors to consider? So I've tried to outline some of the questions that we have to answer here, which greatly impact the outcome as to how we want to deliver software projects. And I have to mention very early during this video that when it comes to software projects, some of the values that are outlined here that I talk about contribute massively to project success. There's a lot of data around how these factors can contribute to more successful projects that are delivered within budget and on time, as opposed to projects that are on the other side of the continuum and don't really implement some of these or most of these values and really struggle delivering to budget and on time. So those questions. First, are you ready to empower the team to make decisions? Do you trust the teams in your organization? It's a question of trust. Do you trust them? And we will dive deeper to all these questions, but let's go through them for a minute. Do you believe motivated individuals can deliver your strategy and vision autonomously? So if you motivate teams and individuals, do you believe, without giving them specific direction, like micromanaging them, without micromanaging them and dictating things to them, do you believe that they can deliver value to your customers based on your, obviously, strategy and vision? The other thing is, do you value your customers and clients and have a genuine intent to deliver value to them? I've seen many projects and organizations that don't even know who exactly their customer is, especially in situations where you're not like a company like Amazon, where you're dealing directly with your customers, right? It's a no-brainer. Sometimes definition of customer, especially in, for example, government organizations or in non-profit organizations, differs from commercial organizations. Do you value innovation and believe that innovative solutions can position you better, whether it's in the market or whether, for example, you're a government organization and it sort of positions you better to be compliant and sort of comply to those legislative directions and requirements, or not? And finally, do you value quality and are comfortable to sort of fund and spend money on built-in quality? And again, we talked about that. Now, before we dive deep into all of these individual questions, I have to mention every one of these factors that we will talk about is, again, a continuum. And therefore, you may work in an environment, or you may set up an environment where some of these factors, you're basically doing pretty well in some of these factors, but you may be, struggling with some others. And at the end of the day, you have to sort of have an understanding of where you stand today and where you want to be in future. So the first question, are you ready to empower your team to make decisions? And in a previous slide about self-organizing teams, I talked about that. So I don't want to spend too much time and explain this in detail, but I quickly and very briefly talk about it. If you are interested, please refer to the other video. The link is in the description of this video. So on the left-hand side, you see centralized decision making, when teams are not really empowered to make decisions. And what happens in that situation is, for many of the decisions that teams need to make, they need to pause, escalate to management, wait for the decision to be made, and then continue once the final decision is communicated to them. And this sort of pause, wait, resume causes delays in the process. And therefore, the flow of value to the customer is not continuous. There are lots of delays in it. On the right-hand side, you have an organization where the decision-making is decentralized and the teams are empowered. And the difference here is that the strategy, the vision, the goals are defined in that top level, management level, and communicated to the teams. The teams have a very clear understanding of the vision, strategic direction, and goals. And they sort of translate it based on the level of the team that we're talking about to their individual goals. And they also have, in that structure, we also have controls. It's not one-way traffic. We have controls to make sure any decisions that the teams make are also sort of validated with their one level ups. So again, I explain all these things in that other video about self-organizing teams. So that's one factor that you need to consider. The software development environments that I'm creating, is it more like the left one or is it more like the right one? Now, in terms of empowerment, one more thing, like a few examples, or like the two sides or the two poles of the continuum that we can look at are agile teams or release trains who are empowered to define and prioritize their features, as opposed to agile teams or release trains where, sort of the features and the priorities gets decided and communicated to them from outside the team. Agile teams or release trains that plan their work autonomously on one side of the continuum, and on the other side, someone plans things for them and just communicates the plan to them to execute. On the right-hand side, again, we have agile teams or system teams or system architects that make decisions around the technical intricacies of their solutions, as opposed to agile teams that have a lot of red tape around these technical decisions, and the environment is burdened, doesn't allow, for example, architects or technical people to take risks, to explore, and to try new things and sort of innovate. Again, access to customer. Have we set up our teams to have direct access to our customers or clients? Or is it like they have to go through intermediaries to access their direct customers? And finally, are we allowing our agile teams to explore more modern practices of software development and implement them? Things like continuous delivery pipeline, built-in quality, release on demand. Or are we sort of more old school? Instead of built-in quality, we are trying to inspect quality by testing the software afterwards, and practices like that. Now, the second question, I cannot highlight the importance of this second factor enough, is trust. Do you trust the teams in your organization? So first thing that I have to clarify is that in a project or organization, we're not really dealing with individuals. We're dealing with teams. The smallest work unit in the organization or project is a team. It's not an individual. And in an agile context, the recommendation, from Scrum and many other frameworks is that the team size should be between 5 to 9. I want to refer to Dunbar's number, and you may be familiar with that concept, but on the right-hand side, you have the famous Dunbar circles, and two of them I want to highlight. 15 is the evolutionary limit on number of people we can deeply trust. So Dunbar says 15 is the evolutionary limit on the number of people. A lot of research basically has been conducted on this topic, and basically this is the outcome. 15 is the sort of the maximum, and then 150 is like the maximum connections that we have with other people. So if it goes above 150, it normally introduces communication bottlenecks. So with that in mind, there are a few considerations here. First of all, when we are designing our software environment or software delivery model, we got to make sure we think about those individual teams and the way they relate to the rest of the organization. So what sort of structure are we putting in place relative to those teams? That's one thing. So, for example, scaled agile recommendation is to have Scrum teams of 5 to 9 people, and then a number of these teams form an agile release train, and you may have multiple agile release trains. And we can keep sort of scaling this up, this structure up in the organization. And then there is, for example, the Spotify model, which is fairly similar. But in all that, we need to understand that that sort of a structure is based on trust. You are basically trusting those individual Scrum teams to deliver the goals of the Agile release train, and the Agile release trains to deliver the goals of their value stream or whatever, like the one level up is, and you keep scaling it like that. So this trust is super important. Now the next slide is about, do you believe motivated individuals can deliver your strategy and vision anonymously? And again, we talked about this in the video about self-organizing teams, but there are some, again, intricacies here. So the first thing is, do we know our vision? Do we know our goals? Is our strategy well defined? And can we sort of convey our vision and our strategy in simple terms, in simple words, clear enough for all teams to understand it without confusion and be able to sort of interpret it based on their team's mission, right? And sort of validate. So they grab a number of high-level goals and they translate it into to goals that contribute to that high-level goal, and they keep so then the goals keep going down the hierarchy, if you want, and get translated to more granular goals. But then all these teams and all these goals are essentially moving towards that vision. The next question is, can you create a positive culture of commitment, passion, and fun around those strategic goals? Now, have a think about it for a moment. I have seen organizations. So the first question that comes to mind when we talk to managers and decision makers is, how do I make sure? How do I put in controls to make sure things get delivered, right? If teams are empowered and they are running autonomously and decision making is not centralized, how do I make sure that they actually deliver? And that's a very good question. We have to keep in mind that this structure is not saying you shouldn't have control mechanisms to ensure delivery. In fact, it says we're creating a culture of commitment, right? So not only the teams are sort of defining their goals, and we have controls in place to make sure their goals are aligned to the overall organizational strategy, but also the culture contributes to commitment and responsibility and accountability, so the teams are constantly trying to deliver those to those goals and outcomes. But at the same time, the cultural environment is full of passion and fun, right? And that's the environment where the individuals, they are relaxed, not in a way where they're not working hard. They're working hard, but at the same time, that passion, that fun, and that commitment helps them enjoy delivering outcomes to our goals and to our vision, while enjoying what they're delivering. Okay, so I talked about the controls as well. So keep in mind that this is two-way traffic, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, while goals and visions get translated at various levels of the portfolio, solution, program, down to the individual Scrum teams. There's a similar sort of traffic upward to validate those goals and make sure they're aligned to our strategy, and also to sort of have control mechanisms in place to track them and make sure we are delivering outcomes. All right, so the next question is, do you really value your customers and clients, and are you putting your teams in a position where they have direct access to your customers and clients, or is it like the customers or clients have to go through like an intermediary, um, as in your feature teams need to go through intermediaries to access the customers, or even worse, is it like they don't even have any access to your customers or clients? They don't understand their needs, and they basically have to guess of what value means to the customers. That's another important factor. And finally, quality and innovation that I briefly touched on earlier. Um, are we to what degree are we willing to allow our teams to take risk, to explore, to innovate, and to introduce quality practices? Now, some of these in a software development situation are a must. You have to have a bare minimum of built-in quality standards, but you can always play with the level of maturity that you're targeting, because the more mature you want to be in terms of quality and innovation practices, it's going to cost more, right? So what is the balance between having sufficient quality, depending on your mission and your context in your project, while not overdoing it, is the sort of the important factor here. So if we put all these factors together, that is what defines our environment, the software development environment, whether it's a project, program, or organization. Trust, innovation, empowerment, vision, customer centricity, and culture. And different projects, different organizations may be good at some of these aspects and may not be doing well with others. But at the end of the day, what I want to highlight here is, whether it's your Scrum Master or any other role in your organization, if you are really doing agile, ask yourself, if I don't trust my teams, if I'm not ready to empower them to make decisions, sort of define their own backlog, prioritize it, and plan their own work, and like all those aspects of agile and scaled agile. If they don't understand their vision and goals, to sort of align their goals with those high level strategic directions in the organization, project, or program, if they don't have access to customers to properly work with them and understand what their needs are and what is really considered value to them, and if the culture is designed in a way that doesn't encourage transparency, trust, commitment, having fun together, enjoying the work, innovation, if the culture is not like that, then the contribution of the team and the individuals, including Scrum Masters, is going to be limited, right? And they get sort of diminished, whether it's your product owners or whether it's your technical team or whether it's the Scrum Master, they get diminished to individuals as opposed to a high-performing team. And then you'll find that yourself in a situation where you are really struggling to deliver software systems. You're really struggling to deliver outcomes. You keep running behind. Individuals are not motivated. You find there's not like the energy level in the project is not very high. People are not positive. There's a lot of conflict between people. That's one side of the continuum. And then when you go to projects or organizations where most of these factors are working really well, you'll find that people are very positive. The energy levels in teams are very high. There's deep trust between team members and like even from team to team. And there's a culture of transparency, innovation. Feature teams are working with the customer to deliver real value, and they actually see those outcomes. Teams are successful in delivering to their sprint goals. There are not many quality, like frustrating quality issues. Keep in mind that quality issues will be there anyway. It really depends on your um, sort of maturity in terms of built-in quality practices and continuous delivery pipeline. But the more mature it is, the less frustration and like those teething issues you're going to come across. So to summarize, to decide what you want to achieve, what role you want your Scrum Masters will play in your team, ask yourself, where am I? Where is my project? Where is my organization in relation to these factors that we talked about? And can my organization really sort of enjoy the value of having an experienced Scrum Master, or with the same token, a product owner? Or am I just basically bringing someone, tagging them with a certain sort of role, but um, they're in a position where their hands are tied and they cannot really deliver much outcome to your customers and clients. I hope you have found this video useful. If you do find these videos useful and you enjoy them, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and leave comments on the videos. Give me feedback. Thank you.